Welcome to New York Got Game.
All right, here in Got Game, we always like when we can talk to legends from the New York City basketball circle. And today I have the pleasure of having a legend join me from New York City basketball roots. His name is Jim Larrañaga. He is the head coach of the University of Miami men's basketball team. They will be playing at the Jimmy V Men's Classic this week. And Coach Larrañaga joins me now. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm glad you're doing great. Great to talk to you. You're one of the legends in terms of coaching from the New York City area. And I want to ask you a little bit about your roots, because for people who don't know, you grew up in the Bronx. You went to Archbishop Malloy High School in Queens, where you played basketball under the legendary Jack Curran. How did that shape your desire to coach? You know, you loved the sport for so long time, but how did that shape your desire to coach, your coaching philosophies? How did New York City help shape all that?
Well, Mr. Curran is my role model and my mentor, and everything I've done in coaching, I think, is a reflection of him. When I was a freshman at Malloy, Mr. Curran called me into the office over the Christmas break and said our head coach had quit and that he wanted me to coach the freshman team with one of my teammates, Dick Zeitler. And I did say to him, Mr. Curran, you know I'm only 14 years old. And he said, that's all right, Larry, you can do it. And so I did. We went undefeated, 21-0, won the city championship. And then I was hooked on coaching. I followed Mr. Curran's all the steps that he was showing me throughout my high school career. And I knew from day one that one day I would be a coach.
Well, you knew it from there. Hey, 14, that's a great accomplishment to have done that at that time. I'm not sure many 14-year-olds could have handled that there, Coach. But I got to ask you this, because you're returning back home to your roots, coaching at the Jimmy V Classic at MSG. What's it like to return to such an iconic venue and come back home and have the opportunity to coach at this historic classic?
Well, Madison Square Garden is the mecca of college basketball arenas, pro basketball arenas for that matter. And here's what I would tell you. When I was 10 years old, I fell in love with the game of basketball because my brother Bob, my older brother Bob, was a player for St. John's University, went on scholarship. He was recruited by Lou Conaseca and Joe Lapchick. And then I would go to Madison Square Garden to watch St. John's play against some of the great teams in college basketball history. And from that moment on, I said, oh, Madison Square Garden is the best. And one day I'd like to play in Madison Square Garden. I never dreamed I'd be bringing my team there several times throughout my head coaching career, bring them to Madison Square Garden. But I know my players are really looking forward to it.
Hey, players always like playing at the Mecca, which is MSG. And look, coaches do too. No matter how long you've been coaching, Coach, I'm sure it's special to coach back there at MSG. But it's also special to be part of the Jimmy V Men's Classic, which will go down on Tuesday, December 10th at the Garden. Your team will be taking a part of it. You'll be going up against Tennessee. When you talk about the Jimmy V Classic, you got to talk about the legendary Jim Valvano. What does he mean to you, Coach, and what is his legacy moving forward as we always honor him with this classic?
Well, Jimmy V was a very good friend of mine. Not close, but we knew each other. We spent some time together on the road recruiting and what have you. But his legacy about the Jimmy V Foundation and research for cancer touches everybody. It touched my family when my father was diagnosed with bone cancer in 1993, and he died the same month, April of 93, the same month as Jimmy V. And so research for cancer, to try to find a cure for that dreaded disease is so important. And the Jimmy V Foundation and Jimmy Valvano, they have a lot to do with that.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and they leave a tremendous legacy, and that's what this classic is all about, not just the basketball, but the fight and ability to raise funds for a cure for that dreaded disease, as you said. But in that game on the 10th, as I mentioned, your team will face the Tennessee team in that one. What are you expecting out of your Miami squad, and what will be the keys to them coming on top in that game?
Yeah, well, I have great respect for Rick Barnes. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's done a tremendous job wherever he's been. Including my alma mater, Providence College. And his teams always play great defense. They're always very efficient on offense. And this might be, there's several other teams on our schedule that fall into this category, but Tennessee is definitely one of the best teams in the country that we will play against this year. So we know we have our hands full, but we're looking forward to it. It's a real challenge, and our players are going to be excited.
Yeah, they're going to be excited. Should be a good one. And you might not know this about me, but I watch ACC basketball very closely. I'm a proud alum of the University of Pittsburgh, so I watch a lot of ACC basketball all the time. But what are you feeling about your team this season? I know you've had a huge turnover with your roster, but how are you feeling about your guys this year as they get ready for conference play? And do you think they can be competitive in the ACC this year?
Yeah, it's interesting now with the transfer portal how much has changed. And we have 10 new guys. And what has been the biggest challenge for me and for them is to learn each other. They have to learn what I'm expecting offensively, defensively, the discipline and organization that we expect from a Miami player. And I have to learn their skills and their attitudes and try to get everything to mesh. We need cohesiveness. Right now, it's been a struggle so far in the early going. But I think we're getting better. We're understanding my philosophy more. We're understanding what we need to do both offensively and defensively. The challenge, though, has been at the defensive end of the floor. Our defense and our rebounding have to improve if we're going to compete for an ACC regular season title.
All right, so things that Miami has to improve upon, and we'll see if they can do that as they move forward. A couple more things for me, Coach. You brought up Lou Carnesecca, and I have to ask you about him. Somebody you knew, obviously, is a legend in New York City basketball. What did he mean to you, and are there any memories you have of him that you can share with our audience about Lou Carnesecca, what he meant to you in just New York City basketball?
Well, Louis is a Hall of Famer and a legend. And in New York City, he was college basketball. And as I mentioned, my brother Bob was recruited by Coach Carnesecca. He went to St. John's, and as a 19-year-old sophomore, he would bring me out to St. John's to watch their practices on weekends. And the first thing I noticed about Coach Carnesecca was his energy and enthusiasm, the discipline and the organization, and most importantly, the passion that he brought. And I'd go and watch one practice and see him running up and down the sidelines like a cheerleader, going crazy every time the guys did something well. And then the next weekend when I come out, it was the same thing. He was nonstop. He was relentless. He is what you would call a great leader and an inspiration for other coaches. And that's one of the reasons when I got into coaching, again, he was one of my role models.
Yeah, he was a role model to many, not just coaches, young men in the sport, as you know, which has been so important for him. And, he's definitely missed by many, but his impact still felt throughout the New York sports scene. Lastly, Coach, for someone like yourself who's had a lot of success, has been doing this for a long time, not calling you old, just saying you've been doing this for a long time. Right, Coach? What more do you feel like you have to accomplish in the game? What more do you want to do? And how do you want to be remembered? Because now we're talking about Coach Carnesecca. How do you want to be remembered among New Yorkers in the New York basketball world?
Well, the first thing is I'm very, very proud to say that I've coached a lot of tremendous young men, not just great basketball players, but really good people, fun people to be around. I've also had an incredible staff who has helped me build 3 different college basketball programs at Bowling Green, George Mason, and now the University of Miami. And if someone asks me what my goal is, I've coached a long time, but haven't won a national championship. So still in the back of my mind is try to figure out how to put a team together. We've been to the Final Four twice, and we've been to the Elite Eight, but we've never won a national championship. That would be the ultimate for me. And I just hope if anybody says, oh, I remember Coach L and what he was like, I hope they just say he was a good guy, a good mentor to his players, a good role model in the community.
Well, hey, if you can leave behind that legacy, that is always a good one. As you said, Coach, I wish you the best of success, just not against Pitt. Sorry, I got to put that in. It's not against Pitt, but I wish you the best success in the upcoming Jimmy V Classic as well, too. I know that'll be special for you returning home. So thank you so much for your time and joining me here. We appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Anytime.
And thanks for watching New York Gut Game. Boom shakalaka.